Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new edition of Sports Frenzy right here on Wood TV. Plus, Phil Penarski here, joined as always by our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here today. We've got a lot to get to. So, of course, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Pistons in the midst of a skid right now. They were able to break their losing streak, but we'll be talking about some of the issues facing them. We'll also be talking about the Red Wings and some of the moves that they made ahead of the trade deadline. But we want to start off by talking about some college basketball. We are in March, of course, so it feels appropriate to start talking about it. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time, of course, talking about Michigan and Michigan State as they get set for the Big Ten tournament ahead of the NCAA tournament. But we also have a game to get to talk about, and that was on Sunday as the Wolverines were able to beat the Spartans once again, 90-80 over the weekend. Yet another situation, really, where to me it just felt like Michigan's guys were just better than whoever Michigan State was able to pull off the floor. And I feel like that's just really what it came down to in that one.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's kind of what it's like been all year. It feels like that way. Michigan's just been better than most teams in the Big Ten, and I think they've been one of the better college basketball teams in the last 25 years, to be honest with you. And they kind of cemented that home. I feel like after that loss to Duke, where they just didn't play their best game, the one they had at Illinois, and then the way they were able to play against Michigan State there to end the season, even Iowa, tough environment to go to, just kind of cemented everything home that they've been proving the entire season, which they're a lot better than most teams in the country, and they probably have a really good chance to make a deep run. But yeah, Michigan State, I mean, if you're watching that game as a State fan, I don't think, like, with the way they've played the last 5-6 games of the season here, even including that game against Michigan, I wouldn't be too upset about their effort, because I do feel like they played pretty good basketball, and it just every time that they got it to within 3, Axel Landenborg said this wasn't going to be a close game. So that's just kind of the way that it went. Like, he took over the game. He's the best player on the floor. Maybe he's the best player in the country. I don't know. He's definitely up there on draft boards right now because of the way that he's been able to, play down the stretch, especially here for Michigan, and he's looked very, very good at times. But yeah, overall, from what I saw from that game, it was just Michigan was the better team, has been the better team, and it was the reason that they won the Big Ten. I mean, Tom Izzo said as much afterwards. There's obviously a lot of talk about what he did say afterwards, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But he did say that you don't get to 29-2 without earning it. So, I mean, that is kind of how it feels. Like, they earned it, they did it, and no matter what you want to say about how much money Michigan spent, you have to coach that up, and Dusty made it a great job putting these guys together in the right place to make them as good as they've been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my most impressive, stat for Michigan this year was being the first team since 1975-76 to go undefeated on the road. Like, you talk about how tough the Big Ten is every year in and year out, and how tough it is to win on the road, and Michigan was able to do that flawlessly this year. So that kind of proves to me that, they can win in tough environments. They can obviously, hopefully in the tournament, I think now they can go to neutral sites. So this team was so much fun to watch all year, and to me there was never a doubt that Michigan was going to win the Big Ten. And I think it would have been a confidence boost for State to kind of overcome Michigan, but obviously they were not able to do that. But looking forward to a deep run as well for Michigan. Yax was playing great. The loss of LJ Kaysen, we'll see if that plays a role coming up for Michigan. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Big Ten tournament, and you might see a Michigan State third time. Game.
Roddy Gale's going to have to play the way that he played in that game to replace LJ Kaysen. I think that's going to be the key the whole term. I think he had 15 points or something like that and around 7 boards. He's not LJ Kaysen. He's not going to do what LJ Kaysen did, but he can replace his minutes in other ways by doing other things that help that team a lot, and he did in that Michigan State game, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Michigan finishing the season 29-2, best record in program history, currently ranked 3rd in the AP poll, and there's probably about 4 or 5 really top teams right now. Michigan's definitely one of them, but just based off what we've seen this season, I find it very hard to not pick them. I know that they lost the head-to-head to Duke, but again, I think if they maybe played that a couple more times, it might be split as far as the records for both teams. So again, is Michigan, in your guys' opinion, kind of as we enter March, are they still the team to beat in the entire country? Would you maybe put a Duke and Arizona, Houston above them?
I don't know. I would say Michigan's one of the best. I'm not going to say that they are the best. I think this will be a tournament that you will see potentially the top 4 seeds advance to the Final Four. I just feel like you're going to maybe, you have your occasional upsets, obviously, through the first couple rounds, but I think when the cream rises to the top, I think you might see those 4 teams in the Final Four. So, and that would be a really exciting Final Four. Hopefully Michigan can get a rematch with Duke, who we talked about before. They played really well in that game. It was just that late push by Duke that kind of put them over the top. But no, I think they are obviously one of the top teams in the country. And I don't, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't mind, and I've said this for years, wouldn't mind a loss in the Big Ten tournament. Okay, like it is tough. I think for teams to kind of go 4 straight days. With Michigan, might be 3 straight days to play, right? And then you get a couple days off. So I don't know. I don't know if the extra rest would help them a little bit, or just kind of, if they win the Big Ten tournament, it still keeps them having that rhythm and that swagger. But I'm not sure about that. I never think that a loss sometimes in the Big Ten tournament when you're a top team hurts you going into the tournament.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I think if you were to ask Dusty May that question tomorrow, he would tell you that like a win-loss would probably make him happier than if they played 3 straight days going in the NCAA tournament, because his eyes are on winning, something that he was very close to when he was even at FAU. So,
right.
I think getting that extra rest does help, and that's why the conference tournaments are always kind of like a does it really matter sort of thing. I mean, obviously with Michigan State here and the in-state rivalry stuff, like last year, Michigan State won the Big Ten, and then Michigan won the Big Ten tournament, so it was like, ooh, which one's more important? I would always tell you the in-conference tournament is more important, but again, it's always what have you done for me lately? So if Michigan State goes out and wins the Big Ten tournament, they'll act like it's more important than what Michigan did. It's just kind of, I feel like it only really matters to the fans. When you talk to like the actual coaches and the people in the building, they probably would rather tell you they get the extra rest. I mean, Dusty picked Pennsylvania for that first region for them to be able to get, because he wants to have the Friday, Sunday guarantee instead of the Thursday, Saturday. So if I had to guess, based off the fact that he already wants more rest and more practice time for his players for that stuff, I would guess that he would not mind if they had an early exit from this tournament. But I also don't think these guys have an off switch. Like, they're going to go out there and give it all they have and try to win it, because at the end of the day, it's just more bragging rights and more things to say that you did if you did win it. So, yeah, you're still going to get good effort, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if they do lose early. Either team, Michigan or Michigan State.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, you guys both think Michigan has locked up a number 1 seed,
Yeah,
even with the
no
early
way.
exit.
What happens to the Big Ten
They could lose
tournament?
first round. It wouldn't matter. That'd be crazy if they didn't get it with 2 losses.
Yeah.
Although, isn't there? There's like 4 teams with 2 losses.
That's what I'm saying. Is like there are a couple of teams that kind of are vying for that
I
last
just
number
don't think
1
Michigan
spot.
would lose it. I think they've had too high of a rating, and all their like Ken Palm stats are so much higher than everybody else's. It'd be pretty nuts if they didn't get it at this point.
And Michigan State may get a 3 seed.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me if they do get a 3 or 4 seed.
I'd watch out for Michigan State in the NCAA tournament still, man. I'm telling you, they've been playing a lot better the last few weeks and everything. And again, maybe they're not like the best team, but if they get in the right region and they're able to, run the table, at that point, when people get tired, it does matter. So
I don't know. They don't fears me. They don't.
Yeah, yeah. That guy.
It's always hard to root against, or at least vote against Izzo in March too. I think that is also a huge thing about it too.
Right.
And that kind of leads us to the next question about Michigan State. Dean, you mentioned that they might be a 3 seed right now. They're kind of hovering on that 2 and 3 seed right now.
Yeah.
What do they have to do in the Big Ten tournament to maybe convince the selection committee to give them that 2 seed, or maybe how wrong could things go for them to maybe even fall to maybe a 3 or 4 seed? Could you foresee that possibly happening?
I mean, to me, like, they would have to lose that first game.
Yeah.
Maybe
by a lot.
By a lot, or obviously to a lesser opponent. But no, if they win the Big Ten tournament, I think they're definitely like a 3 seed. I don't see them being a 2 seed, but.
Yeah, I think the only chance they have at that is winning it. I think they probably are more a 3 seed right now as it sits anyway, in my mind. So just with they've had enough losses this year to good teams. I feel like they're not going to get that 2 seed nod. So I think they're in a 3 seed if they just win and then maybe lose in the next game or something like that. But if they lose the first one, they might slide back to a 4. I wouldn't be shocked about that at that point. But
who do you guys see as teams other than Michigan State to potentially win the Big Ten tournament? Because I feel like the Big Ten's so deep.
Because every single team's playing in it, and it starts on Tuesday. It already started last night, right?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't pay attention to that. I'm not gonna lie, but it's pretty crazy.
Wisconsin's been playing well. Nebraska's kind of following.
Wisconsin has some of the best wins of any team.
Yeah, Wisconsin beat all the teams. I mean, they're the only ones beat Michigan, and they shut the lights out to do it.
And they beat Michigan State.
But they can beat anybody too. I mean, it's tournament play is like you just go day to day like that, and some teams are playing for more. Like I said, when Michigan had to go to Iowa, that's the kind of game where I'm sure Michigan was probably looking a little bit ahead to that last game too, because they already had the Big Ten wrapped up. But that's the kind of team. Like, if they're playing for more, they're going to give you everything they have, and that's where you can get into trouble and lose one of these games.
Yeah, your bubble teams or your teams that you want a better seed, those are the teams that are really competing in the tournaments to try to get better seeding.
The one thing I would say for Michigan, I do think they need more games, because losing LJ Kaysen, we've seen time and time again this tournament. The NCAA tournament is a senior guard tournament. Like, if you have a guy who plays well at your point guard, you usually end up making a deep run. Those are the teams you kind of see do it. And while Elliot Cadeau is great and has been good at times this year, he's one of those high risk, high reward kind of point, or failure kind of point guards where he throw a lot of passes that you can't believe that he makes, but then he also turns the ball over quite a bit and runs himself into a lot of trouble. And he's had Kaysen to be able to come in the game and kind of be smarter for a little bit of time when he has gotten into trouble. Now he doesn't really have that. I mean, Trey McKinney can play the point, but it's not the same. But I feel like they want to, like, for Michigan, you might want to get some of those reps in, you know, to get some of that practice down the stretch before you go to the NCAA tournament, because that's where that could hurt them, is if they have some of the turnover problems they had earlier in the season when they were kind of in a lull in the middle.
That would be, you're right. That's Michigan's Achilles heel. Taking care of the basketball, valuing each possession, and cutting down on those turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Michigan and Michigan State maybe run it back one last time, just
That'd be
because
crazy.
that rivalry is definitely. It's been exemplified this season. I feel like there's bad blood from the coaches all the way down to the players right now.
Yeah.
I think it's been voted like the second best rivalry in college basketball right now by a lot of stuff. Obviously, Duke North Carolina just gets all the hype, but I mean, it's a phenomenal game.
Yeah, I mean, just like the comments from the coaches too, kind of playing into and kind of building up the fire. I mean, I feel like this needs a third round.
Yeah. I'm nobody's little brother. I'm gonna tell you that much.
We're not gonna start a whole other conversation here, but I mean, Izzo, those comments afterwards, just real quick, like I respect this guy for a long time. I don't know what he's watching with Jeremy Fears, but like it's clear as day what he's doing out there. So
he's defending his player, but he's always
disciplined his players, though. He's always been like that. He's always been the guy. It's like, I'm gonna get them right. I'm gonna straighten it out. And maybe it's just because Dusty May's so in his head right now that he can't stand him, that he just refuses to like crap on Jeremy for it. And Jeremy's like, he needs Jeremy Fears on his team. If they don't have Jeremy Fears, they're in trouble. But yeah, I mean, it's clear as day. Like whether it really, affected Cadeau that much or not when he kicked him, it's like he still is doing it again. It's the same motion. You see it over and over again, these replays. Like everybody seems to hate Michigan right now, the things they've had going on there. Even other like schools, like student section stuff, are quoting this. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what Izzo said after that? Like, it's just wild to see that he can't like accept it and discipline it. But
yeah. All right, well, moving from the college ranks now, we'll go to the pros and talk about the Detroit Pistons. Again, we've been seeing their high graces really all season long. It's been incredible to see them kind of maintain this lead in the Eastern Conference, but that lead is now dwindling. The Pistons were lucky enough to win on Tuesday against the Brooklyn Nets, but that was coming off a 4-game losing streak. Their lead right now is dwindling over the Boston Celtics, and the Boston Celtics just got a huge upgrade at shooting guard recently. So again,
What's his name again?
Who was that?
Yeah, Jason Tatum. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him before. Again, having a guy like that,
NBA champion. Yeah, I think I know who he is.
But having a guy like that obviously does kind of swing things maybe a little bit more in favor of the Boston Celtics. But let's just talk about how we feel about the Pistons kind of right now as it stands on March 11th when we're recording this, coming off that 4-game skid, and even before that, even though they won 3 in a row, again, those were against teams that were sitting a lot of their top guys, and even some of those games had to go into overtime. So again, right now as it stands, Pistons still on top of the East. How do we feel about this team?
I mean, I don't feel as good as I felt. That's for sure. But this has kind of been the thing I've been saying since the deadline. I felt like they needed to add somebody else that could shoot. And I mean, Kevin Huerter might have been that guy, but they don't even really play him until they kind of had to here recently. And I feel like they've been trying to switch some things up. And I don't think the whole fan base is asking why Karis LeVert keeps getting the minutes that he gets instead of Kevin Huerter. It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, like, it's just, again, there's no really, like, Jalen Duren's a great player. He's not the same level as Cade, and they just don't have that other guy to go to, like, night in and night out to score points from. I mean, their best shooter, arguably, on their team recently has been Green. I mean, that's kind of, when you think about that, that's kind of crazy. Like, it was Duncan Robinson. He was doing great, but he's been struggling a little bit more lately. They just haven't had the same production, and it's ran them into a lot of trouble. I mean, even when Cade didn't play the other night, the lead that they had against Brooklyn, that's the kind of lead they just didn't blow earlier this season. Like, no matter what, no matter who it was against, they were going to finish that game out and win it. I think there's definitely a lot of room for concern right now. The good thing is they still have a lot of time to kind of fix things and maybe make it better and figure some things out. Maybe another shooter gets hot going into the playoffs, but yeah, what I'm seeing right now is exactly what I was worried about. When you go into the playoffs with only one real guy that's going to get you the shots and like can create his own shot and you can go to, teams are going to double him and play a lot harder in the playoffs. And I think it's going to ultimately be a pretty big problem for the Pistons. And it's kind of been showing up in some of these games. But also, like the Spurs, a couple of those matchups they had, they're just playing on a different level now too. They're scary.
It's
so
unfair.
Yeah, it's just like that's where I do, no matter what. If the Pistons make the finals, I'm probably picking anybody that plays them in the finals against them. I still believe they can't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think that's probably going to be the limit for me from what I've seen right now.
Yeah, I mean, the 4-game losing streak, I think JB Bickerstaff said it best. Like, it's a long season. You're going to go through these little bumps in the road. Fatigue sets in at times. So, and 3 of those losses were to, like, good teams, right?
Yeah.
So, Not too concerned there, except the Brooklyn game. I'll give you a quick story. I was working the Novi Golf Show for Maple Hill this weekend, and we got done, checked my phone. Pistons were up by 17 early in the fourth. I'm like, all right, all good. We went to a restaurant, looked up, they're down by 2 with less than a minute left. And I was like, how is this happening, you know? But I think you're right. If Cade was in there, I don't think that would have happened, right? And you can't lose to bad teams like that, right? I'm okay with losing to good teams. And obviously the Spurs are very, very talented. So, like, I was okay with kind of those losses. But somehow, you know, Isaiah Stewart's back, so you got to get that basically that continuity back and, you know, that rhythm back that you had and the chemistry and the togetherness with these Pistons. And, you know, because if you remember last spring, they kind of faded toward the end and their seed dropped a little bit. I just hope that doesn't happen again, right? I hope they continue to play at the level that they had earlier in the year. But you're right, Andy. They need that third scorer consistently because right now sometimes it's Tobias. You know, Jenkins has not been playing as well lately. So yeah, you're going to need that to make a deep run in the.
And you can't find it this late in the year. It's just not. Right. It's not really possible. Like that was something they needed to address the deadline, and I hope that this offseason they learn from that. That's kind of what it is for me right now. Yeah. Whatever they can do this year would be great. Just like win a playoff series, and I'd still feel like there was some success from it. Maybe they were a little in over their head at first.
Win a home game.
They at least took a next step.
Yeah, for sure. And like if they go further and surprise us all, great. Basketball's a weird game, but it just feels like at the NBA level, you don't see that as much as you do at like the college level with somebody surprising. Like eventually in a 7-game series against one of those teams, it's going to be tough to win. That's for sure.
Right. Well, and it feels like for most of the season, I think for most of the season, the Pistons have been atop the Eastern Conference standings. But let's again talk about the elephant in the room and Jason Tatum coming back to the Boston Celtics. AJ Evans and I talked about it in the latest episode of NBA, which you can watch right now on Wood TV Plus, by the way. We just talked about how this really does change things. You know, we went from both kind of understanding that Detroit was kind of head and shoulders almost above a lot of these teams, but with Jason Tatum coming back, the skid happening at the same time, I mean, this is sort of a perfect concoction, really, for the Pistons to really drop off a little bit. How much does Jason Tatum really change the Celtics' odds of maybe besting them, maybe even leapfrogging them in the standings?
I mean, it moves the needle, obviously, right? He's going to make Boston better. Yeah. Boston's already been playing well. Jaylen Brown's been having an MVP-like season, and they've been getting contributions from different guys. So, you know, Boston's team that was playing well without him, and I think that's just going to elevate them a little bit. I'd love to see a Boston, you know, Pistons Eastern Conference final. Right. And I'm also, I told you this a couple weeks ago, I'm also worried about Cleveland. You know, they've been playing well, and James Harden, you know, with Donovan Mitchell. And I didn't like the Pistons lost that game then they didn't have Donovan Mitchell. You know, I didn't point that out earlier. But yeah, you know, you're looking at some teams right now in the East who are getting better, and the Pistons need to kind of stay the course and continue to beat the teams they need to beat, and then obviously, you know, elevate their game to beat the top teams.
Yeah, no, this is a big. I like what you said about the Cavs. I do think that obviously I don't know if any of those comments were actually real or not, but it was kind of said like behind closed doors in the locker room about how like they were saying that the Pistons aren't their level and they can't take them in a 3-game series. And they did kind of go out and own them that game, and they didn't even have one of their best players in Donovan Mitchell. So that, I mean, and like the way that Cade was kind of just talking to players after, I wanted to see him just like so upset after that, like just, you know, running off the court, whatever. But anyway, yeah, I feel like Boston definitely is a threat and does get an upgrade with Tatum there. This is a key stretch for the Pistons right now to win some of these games because while some of their competitions isn't the easiest either. I mean, you got the Spurs beat the Celtics last night, which gave the Pistons back a game that they had lost during that 4-game losing streak. They have the Thunder and then the Wizards, which is obviously an easy matchup, but then they have the Suns after that. So you got a couple of games here where the Celtics have some trouble and probably aren't going to go undefeated in this stretch either. So right now would probably be the time that you'd hope that the Pistons can maybe gain a couple of those games back and keep that 1 seed. But regardless, again, even if they do get the 1 seed, it's just a completely different animal when you get to the playoffs, and we'll see how it all plays out. But it would probably help them with getting that momentum to at least win a playoff series if they can keep the 1 seed. So hopefully they're able to do that.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Time will tell, of course. And again, if you want to know a little bit more about the NBA or maybe just get the latest on the Detroit Pistons, make sure you check out NBA on Wood TV Plus. Kind of shifting gears now from a team that we wish maybe made a little bit more moves before the trade deadline to a team that did make a couple of moves at the trade deadline, and that was kind of a shock to a lot of us here. The Red Wings did, in fact, make some moves ahead of the NHL trade deadline last Friday. They sent Elmer Soderblom to Pittsburgh, and they got David Perron and Justin Falk in separate deals from Ottawa and St. Louis. Guys, again, just feels great that the Red Wings made some moves that maybe they needed to. How much do you guys appreciate these moves? At least the fact that there were moves in general.
It felt great for like 4 hours.
Okay.
And then Dylan Larkin's
And he wanted
knee
moves.
busted out. Yeah, no, like at the end of the day, I like what Steve Yzerman did. I know some people were kind of crapping on it, but I feel like the trade that they gave for Falk, who's a great two-way defenseman, he does a lot of things right. He's already scored a goal since he's been here in last night's game that we'll talk about. But yeah, it's like I think that move was what they needed. They needed something in the blue line that immediately makes their defense a lot better. And I like the move for David Perron, even though he's been dealing with the injury. He is apparently at the end of his rehab, and they must have known that coming in. Again, some of the picks they gave up in players, I really didn't mind. I mean, Soderblom was, I would say, he was probably one of those guys that, Tom McClellan called a jersey on the team. Like, I don't think he was skating his hardest every time when he was out there. I feel like he hadn't recorded a lot of points recently. So that's the kind of guy where I feel like you didn't really know where he was going to fit in the system. And I still think they have some of those guys right now because, like, again, if they keep the team they have, it's like, when are any of these guys going to move up? There's been a logjam with how good the Griffins have been. They have plenty of talent down there. It's not a huge deal to me to give up their draft picks next year in the first and third for Justin Falk. Perron is the kind of guy that they need. I mean, when Larkin got put down the other day, like, nobody really got up to defend him. Like, the wings just kind of lack that same toughness, and I feel like David Perron is the veteran, is the kind of guy that will come in and give you that, and I'm hoping that he can do that. Problem is the couple of games after this, you've already had Larkin go down to an injury, and then last night against the Panthers, when they lead 3-2, and they blow the lead in the last minute and a half, and they can't get the 2 points, which we're so familiar to seeing in this month of March, and they don't want to hear about March, but they keep doing things like that. Andrew Kopp also got hurt in that game last night, who has been a pretty good center for them all year, and has been a bit of a surprise to be as good as he's been. You lose two of those guys, it's like you're asking a lot. I mean, the center is the most important position in hockey, probably, arguably, besides like maybe one really solid defenseman. Losing two of those guys, especially your captain Larkin, obviously it's not supposed to be a super long-term injury, and there still is a lot of games left. They're still in a playoff spot. But last night you had the Bruins, Jackets, Senators, everybody won that needed to win to gain points in the Wings, and they blew it in the last minute and a half. So it's just like one of those things where now all of a sudden they're right in the middle of it, and they're going to have to win to get their way out of it, and it's tough to expect a lot of that to happen right now when you have two of your best guys go down. So while I do like the moves that they made at the deadline, and I do like how we can keep Justin Falk through next year, and that helps, man, it's just like it's one of those things where it's like, how does this keep happening? Like, why does something bad have to happen after something good happens to the Red Wings? Like, I feel like they finally went for it, and Steve finally showed some confidence, and now you got these injuries to worry about.
I know. Instead of March Madness, it's been the March meltdown.
March sadness.
Meltdown's a great word for it. I love that. Yeah.
Interesting stat I heard this morning. Over the past few years, March has been the month that has ruined the Wings. 9, 12, and 3 over the past few years in the month of March, right? And that's when you want to make your move. That's when you want to start playing your best hockey. Just making that move for the postseason. So I know some sports radio people today where this one guy's like, Wings are not making the playoffs. And so they have to somehow incorporate the new guys and start winning these games. Because against Vegas, they also had a meltdown at the end, and they also lost that game. So they're losing games that they need to win. Those are 3 points that they desperately need, and you cannot just give those points away when you're in a playoff race, and especially trying to make the postseason and that drought, everything like that. So I think for the Wings to make the playoffs, they still got to win maybe 6 or 7 more games, Andy. I think that might be a good number.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Easily that.
But these next 2 games against Tampa Bay and, help me out, I don't know.
They have Dallas this weekend.
Dallas and Tampa Bay are super important. They need to win these games to kind of get back on the winning track.
And you're losing 2 of your best guys against 2 of the better teams you're going to play.
Yes.
So it's just asking a lot at this point.
Yes.
It's like it went from like I said, I feel like the city was re-energized for like 3 to 4 hours, and they came out and played absolutely flat against Florida at home, and they lost Larkin in the injury the third period. It's like, man, they just can't win recently with some of the things that are going on. And some of the top centers down here, like Nate Danielson in Grand Rapids, he's been out for a while. You can't call him up to replace him. I honestly haven't been able to check yet to see who they did call up today, because I got to imagine Andrew Kopp they already said he was doubtful for Thursday after last night, so they had to call somebody else up. I would maybe think John Leonard would get another nod. But, yeah, it's just a tough situation right now for the Red Wings. It sucks because it felt like maybe they're going to be able to do something, but you don't want to give up completely yet, because if Larkin can get back and play at any point here, I'm sure he'll do it. The question is how healthy even is he? Because we saw a couple years ago when they blew that, the first time they blew it in March when they had a really big point lead, Larkin did come back after they were losing all those games, and I don't think he was ever healthy the rest of the way. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, well, again, let's talk a little bit about the Dylan Larkin injury. I mean, of course, it's a huge loss. I mean, there's no other way to go about it. But again, I mean, do you think the loss is going to be more impactful on the ice or off the ice? Because again, he was the captain. He was a guy that, he'll still be there, but again, just not having him available, I think, does change the mood in the locker room a little bit.
Both. I mean,
Yeah.
off the ice, on the ice, and off the ice. I think.
Yeah.
Right. I think his presence in both avenues there is huge, right? Because he provides that kind of inspiration. We talked about him coming off the gold medal in the Olympics,
right?
And how well he was playing and how much he could kind of bring that, to Detroit for the postseason push. So, I mean, that loss, other guys are going to have to step up. And right now, I don't think they have been doing it. They haven't been playing as hard as they should. The effort hasn't been there. So somehow, some way, they got to find that inspiration to go out and play good hockey.
Yeah, if there's any time for Marco Kasper to really step it up and like prove that he could have a better season than he has had, it'd be right now, because of who they're down. But it's just I think what Dean said is correct. It's both. Like Dylan Larkin means everything to this team. He's their captain, like on and off the ice, and I feel for him because Steve backed him this year. Like he said before the game started, after they made the trades, like we want to go out and prove that like there was a reason that our general management like made these kind of moves and tried to help us out and everything. And what does he do? Like that happens to his knee in the third period of that game. So yeah, it's just extremely bad luck. And again, it's day to day. I don't, who knows when he's actually going to be back and play again. But it's just one of those things. It's like when he's not on the ice, it has affected this team so much. And they've actually played okay without him the first couple of games here. But losing Andrew Kopp is just another real dagger. Like I feel like that was something that they couldn't lose to at least maybe go 500 in this stretch that Larkin can't play. Now I'm sure Dylan's pushing and doing everything he can to come back if the Kopp injury is going to be that big of a deal. So again, that hockey injury reports are so hidden. You really don't know how long people are going to be out for, like in sports like baseball and football. So it's just going to all be up to whenever they see him on the ice practicing again next. So it might, who knows?
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of the Lions, right?
That's
injuries.
I have said that a couple times.
Injuries kind of happened, and all of a sudden they didn't make the playoffs.
Well, the organization right now is reminding me of it. I mean, you're talking about this is going to be 10.
Something about the city of Detroit.
It's just okay, but yeah, like the Tigers have made the playoffs, right? And they've at least won a series, and the Pistons made it last year, and they've been first in the East all year. It feels like with the Red Wings right now, like they made it for 25 straight years, my whole life growing up and everything, and now it's like if they do blow this, it's going to be 10 years without making the playoffs, and it feels like all the worst things keep happening to them. I don't know, man. I'm getting really weird vibes that it feels like maybe they're like for all the good that they had for so long, maybe they're catching some of that bad luck now too. I don't know.
Right. But you're go ahead.
I was just going to say, even just making the playoffs for the Red Wings would be huge. I
think it would go so far, and that's where people that are like, oh, they shouldn't have made the trade or they shouldn't have done that. Yeah. That does so much momentum for your organization going forward and gives you a whole reason to stay. That would prove that some of the guys in this team right now that people are saying are very soft, like that are not doing enough to kind of play hard down the stretch. It would do so much if they made the playoffs to push in the right direction for them to prove that they can do something, and then they probably would get March out of their heads. That's for sure.
All right. Well, great stuff, guys. Again, we're kind of running out of time here. As it stands with the Red Wings, they are currently just have a 3-point lead in the wild card, but again, still right there in the Atlantic Division, trailing Montreal by just 1 point, and Tampa Bay, who's in second place right now, they're only down by 3 points there, too. So again, a lot of hockey still to be played. Will be interesting to see. We'll be recapping everything regarding the Red Wings, Pistons. We didn't even talk about the Lions. That'll be for next week's episode as free agency is upon us in the NFL. Dean and Andy, thank you both so much for stopping by once again, and I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in to this latest edition of Sports Frenzy. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we will see you again next time.